Have you ever done a podcast before?
Yes.
Oh, you're a pro.
I mean, I don't know if I'm not like you, but
I don't know
I've
about
done
that.
it before.
It has not been. We like fell into this.
Well, you've been doing this for a little while though, like 6 to 9 months, right? Like a year?
Maybe a year-ish.
Okay. Because I see it on LinkedIn sometimes.
You know why we do it?
I mean, there's a bunch of reasons probably, but the one I think of is that we need actual like innovation in the space. And you guys are really good at multiple pathways where you are a 12-step program that actually embraces multiple pathways, and we need more of that. That's why I think you do it. But
That's very kind. Thank you. We're trying. And we're trying to take action.
yeah.
But really, the primary is when somebody's looking for help, that they can learn more about us, you know, and they can see our faces and they can see the vendors that support us. They can see our staff. We try to focus on our staff, you know, for folks to really, I mean, like you can read a pamphlet, you can go to a website that's the most polished experience.
And sometimes very deceiving.
And sometimes deceiving.
Yeah.
So we're like, you know what? We need to have a nurse. We need to have a counselor. We need to have a CA.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you do?
Right, 100%.
The other assumption that sometimes we make, we're just rolling, by the way. This
Okay.
is how I love
figured.
to do it. We just love to
I
like.
figured we just jumped in.
But people don't know how treatment works,
No.
right?
No.
And so talking about, you know, from a chef's perspective or, you know, somebody who works on IT or a counselor, like, okay, like what exactly is your job? And like from day to day, how does that actually function?
And
is
also
really
like
important.
the different ways that, like the different like episodes of care, right? So detox, res, PHP, IOP, sober
Exactly.
living, what's what. I think as a parent, especially, and I have 2 little guys, and my husband and I are both in recovery, and so there's a good chance one of my kiddos will have the genetic predisposition to this, and so as a parent, like thankfully, you know, I've been through it. But if my parents had no idea, and like
Right.
honestly still kind of don't,
Right.
and there really weren't resources like this even 10 years ago when they were 15 years ago and we were like in it, there was nothing like this for them
Right.
to learn.
Right. We've gotten surprisingly, you know, and the whole team has heard, there have been, just the other day, we had our annual concert benefit, and a parent came up to me, and it's really about the show. It has nothing to do with me. But they had watched a couple episodes, and it helped them make an informed treatment decision about the people who we were,
Yep.
right? The spirit of Cumberland Heights. And this woman was very emotional, and she actually had her son with her, you know, that had just gotten out of a program that day, one of our programs that day, a Stillwater's program, and just how much that it helped them learn different things to think about by way of treatment. So that's why we do it. Not trying to be an influencer.
I got sober with a girl. Well, one of the times I ended up, you know, I relapsed again. She did not, and she'd come out of Stillwater's.
We love Stillwater's.
And is still doing well, and now has
That's
2
good to hear.
kids, and really spoke highly about it, and was really, it's still involved in very, very involved in 12-step, and is just a great beacon for people.
So thanks for coming on. We're in Orlando. We took the show on the road.
Love that.
We tried to bring like a taste of Nashville with us, the whole thing, you know. So we brought.
That's cool.
Yeah, I did none of this.
I'm not
Shout
very
out to the
observant,
team.
clearly, because this is amazing.
So, but thank you for spending some time. I know you're busy. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
So my name's Eliza. I work for a company called Pretaa. I'm in recovery myself. I was somebody I would love to say I was quick to get it. I was not quick to get it. And I actually have a Nashville phone number because I tried to get sober so many times in Nashville. I did not go to Cumberland Heights, and maybe would have been
I didn't know
different
that.
had I done
didn't
that.
know you had a Nashville connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I met my husband in Nashville. My husband went to Cumberland Heights twice and is sober.
Really?
And is sober.
Oh, I didn't know. You're like.
Yeah. And,
you're like our number one advocate.
I know a lot of people that have gotten sober with you guys, and obviously my husband's doing well.
That's awesome.
And so I got really, really lucky. I met some people 2.5 years ago that were starting a company that was using biometric data to improve the episode of care. And our CEO was one of the original members of KIPU, so the people that were essentially founded KIPU, and also owns treatment centers and is really forward thinking, and was basically looking at like wearables for his own treatment because he had a tech background, his own treatment center, and is in recovery himself though. And the wearables that he found at the time, we were like mostly Fitbit and Apple Watch. We now have a proprietary ring, which is really cool. But basically, the theory behind it, and there's so much research showing, especially like sleep and heart rate variability, that they are indicators that somebody is struggling with depression, anxiety, heading towards relapse. And we're not just focused on substance use disorder, mental health as well. I personally don't believe that you have one without the other, I think. I mean, I don't know anybody that's like slowly killing themselves because they're super psyched about what's going on in their life. And whether it's trauma or depression or anxiety or schizophrenia, whatever it is.
Right.
And so basically when we work with treatment centers, and when a client enters treatment, they get this ring, which just looks like an Oura ring.
This is the first time I've seen this, by the way.
I know. When I first started talking
I
to
saw
Nick,
Eliza downstairs, and she was like, "I have to show you this." I was like, "Don't show it. Just show it to me live."
And so that's the women's ones. It's a little smaller, but they should fit on like every finger, and they work on any finger. And we're pulling heart rate variability, skin temperature, activity, oxygen, sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, packaging it up. It goes to the client themselves, and it also goes to the care team. And we can send it to any supporters, like a concerned parent or a spouse, at the discretion of the treatment center. And this data also goes into the EHR, so if we're fully integrated, because we don't want clinicians who are already overburdened to have to learn a new technology.
Yeah.
So we want to work with what they know and what they're comfortable with. And this data is really looking for anomalies, so where clients are showing early signs of dysregulation during the episode of treatment, helps with like medication management, understanding triggers. We've had it reveal a lot of trauma, so people will be sitting in group, especially veterans or people who disassociate, and they'll look fairly calm. And then you'll see heart rate spike to 198. And it's like, what was happening at that time that was so triggering to them?
Right.
The many centers discharge the clients with the rings because then they can see how they're doing after. And alumni programs are typically just reaching out at 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. But you can actually reach out ideally pre-relapse and if not, right away, so that we can get somebody like the day they relapse or the day after and get them back into care.
One of the things that's really interesting about the future of wearables, and I heard somebody a long time ago call all this stuff now, because you have rings and you have watches and bands and geek chic.
Yeah. A lot of people wear them now.
A lot of people wear them now. What's interesting about behavioral health with these technologies is, for those that don't know, measurement in behavioral health is different than measurement in medicine, generally speaking, right? Like you have a broken leg, you use a machine called an X-ray, take a picture.
100%.
In behavioral health today, really the standard of care is a combination of, clinical experience, so the wisdom of a clinician observing a client, patient preference, client report. So standardized assessments, both the clinical interview style and the self-report style, is really how measurement in behavioral health works. It's how diagnosis works, right?
Yeah.
There are 11 indicators for substance use disorder, and usually a physician should be a physician or a highly skilled clinician is the individual, again, walking through a patient or a client or a guest through a process to ensuring that they're being diagnosed appropriately. What I find interesting about the future of these technologies is I don't know about you, but I wasn't very good at telling people
You took the words out of my
like
mouth.
how I was doing. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't an expert in being like, oh, I think I'm actually like probably 5 or 6 indicators of depression, anxiety,
Right.
impulsivity. Like
And it's
I was
so dependent on what's going on in that moment.
right. So these kind of like psychodrama, don't tell me, show me. Right? The
Oh, that's
data
interesting.
themselves hopefully would be able to show a treatment team that something might be going on. Like you said, maybe it's related to sleep, maybe it's related to heart rate variability and the activation. So I told you I was going to tell you about a couple grants that we're doing. We just submitted a grant on the 4th, October 4th.
Okay.
I don't even know what day it is, but it's early October 2024. And we are using Actigraph if we get funded, research grade, wearables.
Okay.
Because what we want to try to understand is how to prevent treatment failure.
Yep.
Because at Cumberland Heights, with our own data and obviously the body of work over the last 50 years, longer somebody's engaged, agnostic of the program, the longer somebody is engaged, the higher likely they are to have success long term.
Yep.
And there's always a problem with an individual, just like in our own experiences, we're like, you know what, enough's enough, I'm done, right? AMA, leaving against medical advice.
Yep.
And hopefully these data can help us predict that maybe somebody's at risk for flight.
That's exactly right.
And maybe it's just in their body, which is where trauma is stored, right? Showing up to group and being really activated. Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm uncomfortable, you know, like around Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, I'm like, you know what? This has been great, but I think I'm going to like go back and get in my normal homeostasis.
Right.
Right. And it's the same thing with treatment. When we've taken away the best coping mechanism that an individual has had, right?
In some ways, the only. Yeah.
And maybe the only. Hopefully this technology will help a little bit. Are you guys doing any research?
So yes, we are right now engaged in research with Harvard and McLean on, we are hoping to, in about 9 months, be able to identify craving in real time.
Oh, that's cool.
Which somebody like this guy that we're working with is so renowned. Is probably the foremost researcher in the world on biometrics and craving specifically, and like has the equation for it. And what we're trying to do is get the rings sensitive enough and to pull data fast enough without dying. The battery life is an issue there, right?
Right.
To be able to pull the craving in real time, because then it's like millions of lives saved overnight like that. Like where somebody can reach out.
What's great about what you're doing with Pretaa is like often a lot of, because there's been a lot of wearable research. Like if anybody's interested, you know, Dartmouth has a Center for Technology and Behavioral Health. I sit on an advisory board, and they do. They were the analytics partner for Pear Therapeutics before they went through their troubles. I think they just ran out of money from a technology company perspective, which it happens. But what Pretaa is doing that's interesting is they're trying to go, instead of an academic center taking a long time to do this research, you're investing yourselves in the tools and the feedback loops. So for providers, because we don't have the infrastructure
save lives now.
to build these technology platforms, right? So you're doing it by way of the providers so that, like you said, you know, if you want to better improve your ability to identify some of these risk factors, you can use this platform.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a self-selective population that works with us, right? Like
they're already
centers
interested,
like you guys who are innovative and data-driven and patient-centric and want to treat people as individuals and really look at like what's going on at any given moment.
What's the cost though?
So it got less expensive. When we started talking, we were using the Fitbits and Apple Watches, which have implementation kind of hiccups too with like, you know, you have to create, for example, a Fitbit, a Gmail. And so we learned pretty quickly that was difficult to do. Just difficult for centers, especially if they have like 100, 200 clients. Like it's not super easy to do.
Right.
And so the rings are so easy from an implementation standpoint. It's $50 per ring, and then it's $50 a month per client. And so if you do 3 months at a time, because clients continue through a continuum of care, you want outcomes for when they discharge, that first 30 days being the most vulnerable period typically for clients. So you want to cover that first 30 days for alumni to make sure that their clients are safe. It's $150 per client, and that includes the hardware for 3 months.
Yeah.
And we usually waive implementation. I'm going to stop doing that soon, but we've been waiving it for our early guys. And then we also have technology that is real time for just the detox, oxygen and heart rate.
Through the rings?
Through the rings, just a different ring. I mean, it's the same ring, but it looks the same, but it's just a different version of it. That's going to the nursing station, and that's to make sure that if somebody does get something in, and it does happen from time to time,
that's right,
that you're able to know, or if somebody's vulnerable and has a seizure or something, like you're getting that right away, and finding out right away. But really, the core offering is more focused on the long-term episode of care and making sure that clients make it to the first year, because we know if they make it to the first year, the likelihood of success goes way up.
Have you guys been talking at all internally about trying to petition third-party payers to reimburse for these services?
So we've been approached by a few. And they need more data, right?
Yeah.
Which I get. We work with about 40 centers now, and you need a whole bunch of data to show long-term that you've saved money. Where we are seeing insurance covering it, and I use that in quotations purposefully, because the data, we do all the self-report measures too. You probably remember, like the GAD-7 and the PHQ-9, and we can compare what's going on physiologically with what the client is reporting, which is super cool. But self-report is one piece of the picture, and it can be, it's unfortunately it's subjective. So insurers will say, well, no, 28 days, 30 days, we're done. If you use this biometric data and you say the client's not ready to leave, their sleep is dysregulated, it's a mess, their heart rate variability is dropping, they usually will give more days. And so we've found on average, centers are seeing at the detox res level of care 3.8 days, which is huge. And that's and we know longer stays, better outcomes. So that's where insurance has sort of been covering it. But the payers have been approaching us for data, and we don't have enough of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a payer, I would be trying to lean on the marketplace, for lack of a better term, to try to innovate, to try to innovate quicker and try to identify technologies that can assist teams to better effectively treat people, and again, prevent treatment failure as an example, to ideally save resources for the payer and the treatment center, but most importantly, save lives. Yep. So if I was on the Pretaa team, I would be very interested and maybe even like beta testing this and like unleashing access in terms of the internal teams and trying to peer review the algorithms and the data and the outcomes so that you can get that buy-in earlier. Because I think that, I don't know when, but certainly the more easier it is to use these, the more integrated they are in the treatment experience, like accompanied with assessments. Because that's one day assessments might not be as critical from a diagnostic profile perspective as some of the more passive wearable technologies will be. And it seems really far away right now.
I don't think it's this far. I think 5 years, everybody's going to be using biometrics.
You think so?
I do. Because it's such how long have we been screaming about value-based care? And as an industry, you would know better than I have. You've been in this industry a lot longer, but I I think it's the quickest way to get there because it's completely it's not subjective. It's completely objective data. And I think insurance is going to start giving. We have a few centers that are using our data to try and get better reimbursement rates. And I think that's like step one. Yeah. And then step two is really like working with the payers to do a bigger program. And then, I mean, I think, I don't know. It's so weird to me that I think it's such a cheap way for insurers to actually like help people and get people back in care so that people aren't ending up in emergency rooms or, in the ICU for 4 days because they had to be on a Narcan drip because, I mean, it's like,
So next time you're in Nashville, I want you to come by Cumberland Heights.
I would love to.
And I want you to meet Dr. Park and Corey Ann Johnson, our two researchers who are new, which I told you about, and bring the ring and let's talk about it. I'm a big fan. I appreciate the work that Preta's doing. Genuinely. It's not easy. It's not easy it's not easy starting from scratch. And sometimes these are luxuries that treatment centers can't afford.
Yeah.
And so the longer that y'all are able to frankly survive and thrive, I really genuinely hope will lead to an ability for not only Pretaa, but other, unfortunately, competitors for y'all. But
listen, I mean,
a high tide
Preta's
raises all boats.
Not going to save. What is it? 10% of people are suffering. 1% of people get treatment. If we can eventually go B2C and make it so that people that aren't able to get in treatment or that they're able to get care, like we can't do everybody.
Yeah.
So our goal is to be like the Aura ring for behavioral health, like what that is. Like we want to be that for anybody who's suffering.
Yeah.
But there's going to be fast follower. We're good with that.
Well, Eliza, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you and the work you do.
Well,
deeply.
And we'll see you in Nashville. Like, follow, subscribe. Thanks for watching this episode. See you next time.